about hell, about Gehenna. And the story will be like this, since it's known that according to the Jewish tradition, the wicked in hell are not tortured in the Sabbath, they have a rest. So I want to write a story how the wicked sit there in the Sabbath, among the coals, among the ashes, and they think about it, how to improve the situation in hell. They think that maybe good literature would do it, maybe sociology, maybe some psychoanalysis. What is happening in this world? We keep on always having ideas and utopias and how to improve things, and then the deeds, the facts, the events come back and destroy all our ideas. It certainly is not my intention here to preach realism, mysticism, or any other literary-ism. I do believe in literary experimentation and that there is room for a great many schools of literature. I'm sure that there are new media and new methods still to be developed in writing. Every creative writer brings to his work his own variation of style and topic. But I do not believe that the maximum can be attained by discarding the minimum, namely by broadening the definition of literature to such an extent that it becomes blurred, or by constricting it to a degree that it becomes a puzzle. Within the past few years, the view has been spread that talent is a term without meaning, that it represents an outworn concept, a metaphysical concept. Moderns don't like to deal with things that can't be measured, weighed, photographed, or analyzed in a laboratory. Many feel that the concept of talent belongs in the realm of parapsychology. According to the classic definition, talent is a quality with which a person is born. Those who believe that character and personality are molded entirely by environment have no patience with the old-fashioned concept of talent. But neither Lysenko nor others of his kind will ever be able to cancel the role of heredity in art. The most important manifestation of talent are an innate and never relenting urge to brood about the so-called eternal questions, a refusal to accept human and animal suffering. Individualism is the very air of the talented person. No, individualism is the very air the talented person breathes. He is never a collectivist. He may be loved by many, but he is not a leader of the masses. No matter how deeply he is rooted in his environment, he will never be truly a part of it. He will always be the exception. He belongs and does not belong to the society in which he lives. The true talent wrangles not so much with social orders as with God. The talented person is often a pessimist or even a fatalist, but he cannot be an atheist, for the simple reason that by his very nature he must wrestle with the higher powers. He may revile God, but he cannot ignore him. This is the reason why no dictator or social revolutionary has ever succeeded in harnessing talent for his purposes. I do not envy the true artist of the future. He may even face more difficulties than did Dostoevsky, Edgar Allan Poe, and Van Gogh. He may be forced to fight against triteness, which will appear in the trappings of originality. He may have to do battle with cruelty, which will preach humanity. In a planned economy, he may even be altogether restrained from self-expression. Nevertheless, I believe that true art cannot vanish. The talent that is genuine is endowed with a force that no one can destroy. Within the past century, philosophy has become so analytical and so critical and so overly self-conscious that it almost has committed suicide. I do not think that art will meet with the same fate. I believe that art, expressed in the written word, will yet rear edifices of astounding beauty and harmony. Upon the ruins of banal trash, shallow psychology, false sociology, and empty formalism, there will rise an art pure in character. It will reveal those whims and surprises that are found nowhere else, except in the human personality, its struggle and growth. As it entertains, art keeps on searching for the eternal truths in its own fashion. It still tries to penetrate the essence of being, to solve the riddle of time and change, to find an answer to suffering, to reveal love in the very abyss of cruelty and injustice. The true artist has never made peace with death and oblivion. He knows that we are a fragment in God's unending book, a moment in eternity. Our hopes are closely connected with all the stars, all the galaxies of the cosmos. If the universe is an accident, so are we. If the universe makes sense, so do we. This is the message both of religion and of art. Harder. I wouldn't say it's harder to me, but generally it becomes harder because so many things have been already said that whenever you say something, there's always the danger that you are repeating somewhat. The only remedy against this is to tell a story, because a story is never the same. Even if it looks the same, there is some individuality in it. In other words, if you express ideas, there is the great danger, or almost a great, or more than a danger, that you are expressing something which has already been expressed. But if you tell a story which happened to your life, which you know exactly, there are all the chances are that this is a unique story. It never happened to someone else, and if it happened, it didn't happen the way it happened to you. Storytelling is a great necessity because we have been given the gift of language. And there is a great desire, to me, the desire to talk is almost as great as the desire for sex. And in some cases, it's even stronger. I have known women for whom the desire to talk was even a lot stronger than the desire to copulate. It's a real passion. And the writer talks in his own way with a pen, but it's all talk. And don't call it gossip. Gossip is only when we malign people. But if we tell stories, we're not gossiping. We are expressing really the very essence of life. A writer once asked me, how was I influenced by the Russians? And I said, when I read Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and Gogol, I said to myself, what they did for their people in their language, I would like to do for my people in my language. So far, I was influenced. Naturally, I admire highly Tolstoy and Gogol, and I admire their construction. Whatever influence there was, I'm not ready to deny, because we are influenced by everything. As far as I'm concerned, when I sit here and I talk to you, I'm influenced by the very fact that I'm sitting here. One day you may become a hero of my story, or I may become a hero of your story. We are influenced by everything. It's bad to be an imitator, but it's not bad to be influenced, because influence is the very essence of living. Well, I'm not optimistic completely, and neither am I pessimistic. Since I don't know the purpose of our being here, I don't know why we are here. I don't know really if things are bad or good. They may look bad to us, but the Almighty may be very satisfied. It may be that everything happens according to plan. We don't know. Since I believe in God and I believe in a higher order, I believe that nothing really happens without His will and His order. So I may be pessimistic. I may say that we will never be happy. I don't believe in utopias. I don't believe that socialism will redeem humanity or any other ism. At the same time, I feel that there is sense in our being here, that we are not just an accident. And this is a way, my kind of optimism. Never find anything. No philosopher has ever found anything. I would say that serving God means actually searching for God. The only thing is that I don't believe that a writer can be an immoral man or an amoral man. Naturally, great writers have done also evil things. I mean, they were only human. But the moral fire burned in every writer. If a writer will tell me that human life is not dear to him, that killing a human being does not shock him, and that he believes in lying and in betraying, I would say this man is not a writer. He's not an artist. To me, he's not even a man. He's only a caricature of a man.
25 years ago, called A Clockwork Orange, which they made into a film. Stanley Kubrick made a film out of it. The film was fairly popular, but it was not well understood. The book was about a boy, Wayu, the French call him a young scoundrel, who goes around robbing, killing, and raping, ravaging, and the state catches him and takes him and says, right, we're going to remake you. We're going to use Pavlovian conditioning techniques so that you will respond to evil by feeling ill. So you will automatically desist from thinking bad thoughts, but you're going to start vomiting. And the idea of the book was to show this was far more wrong than to do what this boy was doing, that what they were doing was taking away from him the capacity of free choice. This was not well understood when the film was made, but people said, you are on the side of violence. When the film was shown, I got a telephone call saying there was a nun who was attacked by 4 boys. I was like, this is your fault. I said, well, it's not my fault. I'm merely showing what happens, what life is like. And I'm merely saying that it's probably better to commit a bad thing, a bad act, than to be so conditioned by scientific techniques that you can. Bobby said, we are very tough here. We can take far more than you British can. So the book ends with this young man being deconditioned so that he becomes capable of performing his acts again. Nice. But in my version, the British version, he grows up. He realizes that violence is an aspect of youth. Now he has energy, but he's able to use it for creation. He's going to be a great musician.
It's a terrible film. I couldn't.
You saw the film. Too much. I mean, when I went to see it in New York, they wouldn't let me in. They said, this is not a film for old men, this is something else. I said, well, I wrote the thing. Oh, never mind. Oh, I will let you in. But I was very worried at the time because people were not understanding. The film looked like a glorification of violence. I didn't mean that. I meant that violence is built into our nature, and we can't neglect it. We can't pretend it's not there.
I'm sure that if literature is going to last, it will have to go back to storytelling or be storytelling. I would say no story, no novel, no short story. And why do away with storytelling? We all like to hear stories. When people come together and they gossip, they always tell stories. It's the best kind of entertainment. The takeaway from literature, the storytelling, is a sheer nonsense. This is how I feel about it. The very fact that one has to talk about it and try to convince people that literature and storytelling go together looks to me already like a paradox.
Yes, I agree. Well, I was thinking of two big novels, perhaps the two most influential novels of the century. One is Proust's big novel, À la recherche du temps perdu, which is a couple of thousand pages, and there was James Joyce's Ulysses, and people said, at last we are liberated in the novel from the duty of telling a story. But of course, if you look very carefully at those two books, you'll find that they're just as orthodox in their storytelling techniques, although they take longer about it. They move. I mean, Joyce's Ulysses is just set on a single day in Dublin. Nothing really happens. But everything is happening. There's a man, Mr. Bloom, there's a young poet, Stephen, and they are going to meet.
According to Spinoza, all emotions are bad. He considers emotions bad only when you have adequate ideas, when you study mathematics or logic or so on. I think that without emotions, a human being would be a vegetable, no matter how educated he would be. As far as literature is concerned, it is the law of emotions. Most emotions play the biggest part in literature. As far as the moralists, I would say that they considered our emotions very often a disturbance. But if someone insults you and you feel like killing him, they wouldn't say that this is a good kind of emotions. But why should you have such a bad emotion of trying to kill somebody or to imagine that you kill him? Storytelling without emotions and without ecstasy, it would disappear altogether.
Well, you mentioned the word ecstasy, of course. I was brought up to look at words and see what they really mean. Ecstasy means standing outside yourself, yes?
No.
Standing outside yourself.
Do you mean?
Means you're carried outside your own personality.
Don't you think that ecstasy is made up of emotions?
Well, joy, usually, or even indeed of destructive passion, in an ecstasy of emotion, he killed him. In the act of love, we're supposed to have the ecstatic phase in which you sense, but I can't accept it in terms of very high emotion, the height of emotion. Love, in the act of hearing music or reading a great book, we get outside ourselves and, as it were, enter a new plane of being for a very short time. We can't sustain it for very long. That's what I mean by it. I know young people tend to use it very loosely, and pop music puts into an ecstasy of excitement. It's not quite that. Ecstasy is a very big thing. When a saint, felt he was in contact with God, there's ecstasy. That's the living is the sexual emotion,
it's ecstasy,
which it's like to get outside ourselves.
Since I don't know, I didn't know very well the origin of the word. To me, ecstasy meant strong emotion. Mostly in a positive way, but it can also be in a negative.
When is it in a positive way? It's like sex.
I would say a religious ecstasy. To me, even sexual ecstasy is not really evil. I never considered sex to be as bad as our moralists preach about.